I hope you guys have your drinks ready. I have my water ready because you know I like to sit and share a coffee or a water with you guys and talk about the top stories making headlines in Israel. So welcome if you're new. I am Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief brought to you by Lay of the Land, where we take a look at those top stories making headlines. We do it every Monday to Thursday. Many of you complain to me that you don't see what we report on in the mainstream media. So guys, we've got you covered. It is day 284 of Israel's war with Hamas. And for those who might not know, Hamas is an internationally recognized terrorist organization. And Israel is at war with Hamas, not the Palestinian people, at war with Hamas since the atrocities of the 7th of October when Hamas invaded southern Israel, raping, murdering, mutilating and kidnapping Israelis and foreign nationals. We still have 120 hostages in captivity in the Gaza Strip, held by Hamas in the terror tunnels and by some, as they have testified, Palestinian civilians. But more about some updates on the hostages coming up in today's broadcast. And of course, today's audience question is related to the hostages. So thank you to Leslie Walker for submitting her question. And a reminder to you, if you want to ask a question about the situation in Israel, Jewish history, Israeli history, I am more than happy to answer as much as possible. And many of you tell me if I forget my audience question of the day, I get a very, very kind but firm talking down to. So I will endeavor not to forget. So let's get on with those top stories, and we go to the United States, where last night the Republican candidate Donald Trump, also former president of the United States, announced Senator J.D. Vance, a senator from Ohio, as his running mate. Now, of course, in Israel, all decisions made in America affect us here as well. So we asked ourselves, what is Senator Vance's record when it comes to Israel? And he is a firm supporter. And even though he spoke to Fox News soon after, and he said that the war in Gaza must come to an end soon, he also has supported Israel's right to defend ourselves, saying Israel must be left to get on with the business of getting rid of Hamas. There are also some very moving pictures of him at the Wailing Wall, wearing a kippah, a yarmulke, and praying at the Wailing Wall. On the Democratic side, President Biden sat down with 360 Degrees in an interview, and the president reiterated that he was a Zionist. He said that you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. And he also addressed Hamas as thugs. He said that nobody has done more to try and help the Palestinian people. And he spoke about his record with humanitarian aid, but also said that Hamas are thugs. He went on to say that he had seen pictures of mothers bound to daughters, covered by ropes, covered with kerosene, and then set on fire. And he said it's absolutely inappropriate. Well, quite frankly, Mr. President, with much respect to you, I can think of a word a lot more stronger than inappropriate, but we appreciate that your sentiment is to acknowledge that Hamas are terrorists. Foreign Minister Israel Katz has denied the Foreign Minister of Norway a visit to Israel. The Foreign Minister cites Oslo's recognition of a Palestinian state, along with Ireland and Spain several weeks ago, as well as Norway's refusal to acknowledge Hamas as a terrorist organization and their support of South Africa with their case at the International Court of Justice. Norway's foreign minister apparently has tried several times to ask Foreign Minister Katz if he can visit Israel, and finally spoke to him on the sidelines of the NATO meeting last week in Washington and said, "Foreign Minister Katz, we have a lot to talk about." And the foreign minister replied and said, "You have also done a lot to us. I understand that the Foreign Minister of Norway is trying through several interlocutors to try and reason, to try and get that visit sanctioned by the Foreign Minister of Israel, but I don't think he realizes the severity of the insult to Israel and to the Israeli people that he did with the recognition of a Palestinian state and a refusal to acknowledge the Hamas as a terrorist organization, like most of the world and the European Union have done, and the United States and Australia, and so many have done. And of course, supporting accusations of genocide at the International Court of Justice is absolutely ludicrous. So we will watch the story, we will see what develops, and if the foreign minister is prohibited from coming to Israel, he is also prohibited from visiting the Palestinian Authority because he needs Israel's ishur or permission to do so. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has told the families of hostages that we are as close as we have ever been to an agreement that would see the release of some Palestinian prisoners for our hostages that are being held captive by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, I want to make a very clear distinction because there are some who can't distinguish between prisoners who are criminals with blood on their hands, and innocent people who were taken hostage. There is a vast difference. They are not prisoners of war, they are hostages. There is a very, very distinct difference. And according to Israeli security officials, there are no obstacles to an agreement. So we really, really hope that we will see progress on this front. Nothing could be more important to Israelis than the return of the hostages. And as I keep reminding people on this channel, it's not just Israelis who are held hostage. It is people from at least 20 different countries, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, and this global issue requires a global response. The families from the hostages and missing people's forums have announced that around 7 p.m. Israel time, these are families of 5 young women who were taken hostage. They will release photographs that they had received, obviously through Israeli intelligence, who had received it probably or found them via the evidence that they've taken into custody from Hamas terrorists. Photos of 5 of the young women in their first days of captivity. This is an attempt by the families to put more pressure on not just the Israeli government, but I think world leaders, first of all, not to forget our hostages, but also to push for a deal that could see their release. We are past the 9-month mark and we are very, very concerned for our female hostages. We know that they have been sexually abused and sexually assaulted in captivity, and we are very scared at what could happen after 9 months. And finally, and here I'm going to go on a bit of a rant. Marvel has erased the character Sabra from their upcoming Captain America: A Brave New World. In their trailer, Shira Haas, Israeli actress who was meant to play Sabra, who was a superhero whose real name was Ruth Ben Seraph, whose superpower was that she had superhuman strength and that she could have a regenerative healing power, and she would play a Mossad agent. Well, she has been erased, and she will now be a Black Widow who is Russian. Really, you can't make this up. So Marvel Comics, first of all, Stan Lee, who invented these comics, was Jewish. We will not erase our proud Israeli Jewish identity to satisfy some people who are absolutely triggered because they're so full of hate that they see a Jewish and Israeli superhero. If you are bowing down to the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement and the haters out there, that makes you the villain of the story. And quite frankly, we have superheroes all over the state of Israel. We don't need your silly little movie and your attempts to erase our identity. Well, now that I've kicked my soapbox back under my desk, let's take a look at that audience question. So Leslie Walker wants to know, is Israel the only country that will fight for the hostages? How many countries would fight for you? Well, I think that's a very important question, and thank you, Leslie, for sending it in. I think many of us thought at the start of the war that we would see special units coming in, rescuing the hostages. We understand that they're very, very difficult to locate, and of course the situations that they are held in. But it does feel that Israel is the only country out there really, really fighting for our hostages. We appreciate the United States, the United Kingdom, calling for the immediate release, the role that the CIA is playing in these proposals. But there's not enough international consciousness, there's not enough international recognition, there is not enough international pressure, and if you can't help us on the ground, at least help us in every single diplomatic platform that you can. Help us in your media. Make sure that those who tear down the posters of hostages in the streets of so many cities around the world, make sure that they face consequences. Make sure that the stories of these hostages are not forgotten and you have forgotten them. Which, Leslie, makes us think that when it comes to fighting, we are really on our own. So while we might be physically on our own, I know that spiritually we aren't, because so many of you out there are helping us fight by praying for us, by standing next to us. And I thank you so much. I see all of you guys from Kenya to Zambia, from Sweden to Canada, to all over the United States, Australia, South Africa, the United Kingdom, all over the world. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart so very much for your solidarity with Israel and for your support for the release of our hostages. Now, just a reminder about our website. Please don't forget to check it out at www.layoftheland.online. We have a very, very important article that has been published with the kind permission of Major John Spencer. He is the chair of Urban Warfare Studies at the West Point Military Academy. It's an excellent article. It's up on our website. Go give it a read there. We also have our Facebook community at Lottel's site, our YouTube channel right here at the Israel Brief. You guys know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell them to join us for a coffee or a water or even a cocktail. I don't mind. I might even have one with you. And of course, we are on X at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I will see you again tomorrow.